reading between the lines, I'm going to assume that this is going to be a fucking travesty. Package contains PKM, gearbox and wiring to battery and box mag. What I'm looking for is just for you to work your magic and create a reliable gearbox. From what I've been told, it has an SHS motor, bearings and gears, but happy to change whatever I feel to make it work best. Okay, let's do this. How does she sound? Okay, does it sound good? No, it doesn't. That's what it was saying. Help me! Yeah, this is yeah. Just seen that. Yeah. Fucking hell. Excellent work, dude. Truly fantastic work. Why is it always fucking... Those are pubes. Those aren't dog hairs, those are pubes. I mean, for fuck's sake, don't people clean? Oh, God! Good God. Has he sold it? Oh, he bloody has, hasn't he, the bastard? What do we got? An ultimate plastic piston is not going to last 30 fucking seconds. That's no good, and you don't want to palm in one of these. That's no good. What we've got here. Okay. McNozzle. .1. Cylinder's fine. That gear is mint. More hairs. That gear's mint. And mint. Perfect. Right, it's mint. Yep, bang on. Good. Right, we can keep the gears. Oh, I can't even turn it. Fucking hell. I can't even turn it. No, it hurts me more. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I don't reckon I'll be using that. Fucking hell. It's a long shaft that's been cut by the look of it. I think that's a long shaft that's been cut. 1.5, it won't be 1.5. 1.27. It's a long shaft that's been cut. But all of the fucking metal that's been cut from it has gone inside the motor, so it's basically useless. I wouldn't have used those bearings. There's no movement in them at all, which is good. I've got to say, I've actually never used these kind of bushings inside this kind of gearbox. Not something I've really ever done. I don't know how well it's going to play out. I'm basically just throwing anything in there I can for the time being to see if they're gonna fit and spin. And how much room for shims I've got and all that guff. time being, we know those spin. That kind of spins. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so this 18:1 sits way too low, right? Put it on there, look. You can hear it hitting. If I take this 13:1, nothing. Why nothing? Because I've tapered off the edges. So I'm going to attempt to taper off the edges of that gear. Right. Polish the top. I've completely polished that down and tapered the edges. I do not know yet. I have at least one shim underneath here. But I'm willing to bet that that now works. Yeah, we're good. Oh, am I? No, little bit more. Little bit more just to be sure. I'd have to really rock that to make it do it now. I'd have to really rock it. So, we'll grab some silver ones so I can see which are which. I don't think the bushings are sitting straight. This one as well. So for anyone that's about to say it's because you polished it, you bent it. No, it's not. That one's pissed as well. That end is lower than that end. I don't think these gearbox halves are lining up. I'm not surprised. It sounded like crap then. Let's go back to his bearings. So pissed. It's just so pissed. You're fucked, mate. This dude is fucked. He's gonna need a gearbox. Don't buy stuff secondhand. There's a reason. Fuck me. What can I do about that? These bearings are meant to sit within that hole and they're completely contained inside the walls, not like you'd normally get with that rim on top so it sits high. That's not how these are meant to be. Now I'm just going to show you the easiest way that I can. I'm just going to use some solids. So I'm just doing one gear. The front gear spun, the rear gear spun, but your spur gear, which is the middle one, I've even tapered the back of it, I've polished it, and you are not going to like this because it was basically scuffing on the top of here. And when I close this down, you'll see exactly what I mean. What the problem is, the gear is sitting pissed. This side is way lower than this side. It's either the wrong halves of the gearbox casing, so they're not lining up, or the gearbox casing has been damaged. If you look, that will freely spin because I've tapered it, and there's still some room for shims. But if you look at the size of the gap between the gearbox wall here and the top of that bushing, see, it's just the tiniest amount of gap. Over on this side, fuckloads between that, because this is basically sitting like that. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. Check that out. I think I've got it. I've got it. Right, okay. I've got to do all of the screws to make sure I'm absolutely right in what I've done. Because he's got the option of just buying a whole new gearbox casing, which would make the entire endeavour not worth it. I think I've solved this. I fucking have. Now I've got to check this with every fucking screw in it. Every fucking one of them. That's a tight one. Basically, these are not the correct halves of the gearbox casing. They're not right. I removed the peg here and the peg here from one half of the gearbox casing. Those are the only two things that line it up on one side. The other two things that line it up is this hole here and here. And all I've done is made it so that I can shift the entire top half of the gearbox casing over by a fraction. And that straightens it all up. Before I attempt to give them good news, I think I will just very briefly test my theory. If I'd have glued those bushings in, that'd have fixed that, wouldn't it? Because now look how I can slide that. That gives me a hell of a lot of movement. Yeah? You see what's going on there? Loads of room. I'm actually going to have to drop that down. That's interesting. Okay, never mind. Look at that, you cunt's going to get a fucking proper tech video, can you believe it? The hard part is, once it's all shimmed, I'm going to have to make some new pinholes. That is where I've removed one here and one here. I'm going to have to put some new ones in there, grub screws, so I can make sure this is definitely going to fucking sit straight. Proper tech work, look. Better put this one on YouTube, not Patreon, huh? So, if I'd have put this back where it was, which is here, can't turn. If I move it over to where I've got it now, who's got big bollocks? It's me, isn't it? Bearing in mind, this is still with bits of metal filings. I've not cleaned it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Right, I've never had to do this before. This is a brand new thing I've had to do. So I've literally just locked this now into the vise. The screws are undone by, I don't know, 1/10 of a turn. Just to make sure that this is still straight and good. Obviously you can hear there's no noise going on there. That is now perfectly straight. Now, if I move this, because of the force perspective, you might think that it's a little bit off. You can see, actually, oh, don't do that, you prick. So now I've got to drill some holes, just for new locating holes, basically. And I'll drill it while it's pinned in the vise like this. And then make new locating points. And that'll be problem solved. Right, so, this works. All I've got to do now is change the motor, because this one, bit shit. It's fucked, I think is the correct terminology. So you can see where all the metal filings are kicking out of the motor. And as soon as I apply power, they fucking move around. But this is with the motor that the original dude cut down. Let me very briefly show you this as well. There is my locating screw. Nice, right? Then hit the power. That sounds good. And this motor might just work and last, but I'm just not willing to fucking risk it. All of you? Yeah. I'm so glad I put that in there. I might repeat a lot of the quippy things that I say, just because I've had a sleep, and as soon as I've had a sleep, I forgot everything I did yesterday. What I am going to do is I'm going to measure some of these parts so you can see exactly what length they've got it running at. 21.1 is the standard nozzle. That is a 21, not a 21.1. Better chance of feeding. Didn't quite like my few tapered nozzles I've got left, which I'm keeping just for me because I sold all the tapered ones. I'm not going to get any more because the majority of what I sell and use are the regular ones. But this motor is fucked. Absolutely and completely fucked. Which is a shame. But this is what happens with people and the dumb fuck things they do. Check this out, ready? I thought I had an infected finger, I could feel it. I could feel it. Want some gore? Ready? Oh, there it is. Look at that. Oh, I knew it. I fucking knew it. Oh, that's so grim. So he's elected to have the brushless motor. I think it's wise. I think it's wise. Yeah, that's fucking ideal. That is so much nicer than the other motor. The shitty motor, the pinion itself was all the way backwards. I mean, you can see how different the length is on the shaft. Oh, God, damn it. If I lay it down next to it, that's just so much fucking shorter. Yes, the depth adjustment on the motor is a factor, but right, final thing is the switch assembly. Brushless motor's in there. Everything is done there. Obviously, I'm going to include a fistful of springs, so you can pick whichever spring you want for whichever power you might need. Obviously, it is as quick as just doing that, and your spring is out. All right. Right then. So basically, don't buy secondhand stuff. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. This should have been 2 hours shorter than actually took to do it. They're not hard gearboxes to work on, but when you get a fuck up like that, there's not a great deal you can do about it apart from suck it up and go, yep, looks like I'm paying through the fucking nose. So, I've changed out nozzle, tappet plate spring, tappet plate, motor, piston head, cylinder head. I've changed out the bearings. It's a miracle these did not blow. They are decent bearings, but it's a miracle they did not blow. An absolute fucking miracle. The wiring is all completely knackered. I've short stroked by 4 teeth. Now this is going to feed absolutely fine, but it is down to the customer to make sure his box mag works and make sure his hop unit is working. That is down to them, and I cannot stress that enough. There's going to be nothing wrong with this build. This has got every chance of life because this is a 21.1. This is a 21.00. It's not one of my ones. This is a different taper, and it's going to really help with the feeding. I'm giving him a pile of springs. A pile of springs, the cost of 1 spring. His original spring is still in here. The whole thing is rewired. And my suggestion with box mags in every single way, because they're so fucking cheap, and the wiring looms melt anyway, but obviously the soldering on this was preposterous. It comes before the poster. It's just those fucking box mags. I'm going to suggest to him, and I already have suggested to him, that he takes a couple of AA batteries to make his box mag feed, maybe 3 AA batteries, 4 AA batteries. Get a battery, a 3.6 LiPo, anything, and wire it directly to his box mag, and then have it on the winding button. Winding, not winding. Winding, not winding. I cannot suggest that enough with these because There is so much going on with the MOSFET and all the crap that they put in it that just blows up. And if you want to get a half decent rate of fire out of one of these, you're running more voltage. If I were to just run a loom, you're running more voltage than technically you want to be running with a box mag. You know, it doesn't require that much energy, that much volt, that much amp to turn that box mag. And to get the most out of the gun, I've built this based around a slower warhead motor, a base, so it can run 11.1 absolutely fine. The rate of fire is going to be decent, and it will keep up on the mags. But again, the gun is completely untested. His box mag might not even work. His hop unit could be damaged. It's completely untested. But what he does have is a very, very nice gearbox. So let's plug the fucker in. I've warned him, and I'll warn you as well. If you're ever going to test your box mag, you do it. Don't press back here. Always press here. Because you press here and you press just slightly harder than you think you're going to, or you're not ready for the gears to turn, and you jump, your fingers are going in those fucking gears, and it's unpleasant. It's the kind of thing you definitely only fucking do once. Trust me, once you've done it once, you will never forget that lesson. So I'm going to press from back here. It is the original switch, but I've made it so it just rewires. There's no sense putting MOSFETs in one of these. There's no sense in it. It doesn't make any logical sense. These cost about £3. And when this goes, you take your gearbox out, you take out these two screws, you take that out, solder on a new switch and put it back in. You don't need semi, you don't need burst fire, you don't need active brake, and with something as cheap as one of these micro switches, you don't need to protect the circuitry because it's so fucking cheap. So, don't MOSFET it. Just use the wiring loom and spend £3 on one of these when it blows. Buy a bag of them. You can get these from anywhere. Are we ready? It's lovely. It's lovely. That is how it sounds. It's quiet as fuck. I'm trying to give it one shot. It's lovely. That is with his spring. He's got all different manner of springs. This is the toughest spring. So this rate of fire is going to be a little bit slower. Only a little bit. Gotta make sure I put his original spring back in. It looks like on the PKM you do have to take the... I've never actually taken a PKM apart because I just don't give a fuck. It does look like you have to take the gearbox out to change the spring, but it's not a big deal. And again, you need to be able to get to your hop unit and clean it frequently. And I've explained to him, when you're running this, and this is the big thing about support guns that no one fucking understands, and that is that the piston head, cylinder head, nozzle, tappet plate spring, in this case the fucking bushings, the gears, the motor, the anti-reversal, and the spring. Everything apart from the casing, the switch and the spring guide is exactly the same parts as what you'd use inside a completely normal AEG. M4, MP5, AK, Steyr, you name it, same parts. Why do I mention that? Well, I mention it because you wouldn't sit there and give this a 100-round burst if this was an MP5K, because it's obvious that it's going to cause problems. If it's a fucking ARP9, if you sit there going, ma, because you've got a drum mag, it's going to cause problems. And whether it's electric, whether it's fucking HPA, it doesn't matter, because what you're looking at is BBs rubbing on the hop rubber and the friction that can cause. And if you're doing short bursts, you've got less friction, and most strippages of pistons and gears come from when the hop is too high, or a BB jams, or because the hop rubber's heating up, you've got more chance of getting a jam. And also, if you're doing short bursts, you are far more likely to notice when it goes like, oh fuck, you can let go. You've got a moment to stop. If you're going, "Ma," and you're not paying attention, that is when you get your BBs jam. Now, something I've pointed this out in other videos as well. I'm going to point it out in this video too. I was having a conversation with someone whose gun I've done recently, and he couldn't figure out, and I couldn't figure out, why the gun was firing perfectly in full auto, but in semi-auto, the BBs would just roll out the barrel. He couldn't figure it out. After numerous conversations, it turns out he is a very brand new player, and he really thought he could just buy a second-hand thing off somebody, which, again, the guy had fucked. And then he sold it fucked. Well, the guy has then really thought he could just pick up an airsoft gun and go like this. And obviously, I fixed it, and I've done so on a budget to keep the price down as low as possible, replacing broken parts, but not replacing other certain things that don't necessarily need doing. He couldn't quite figure it out. And I couldn't either, until he said that he turned his hop all the way on for maximum hop. And he said then it makes awful noise. But, you know, I sent him a label to send it back to me because I thought something must have gone wrong. Something must have gone wrong with this. Here's a label, send it back to me and I'll have a look. He's still not sent it back, but I've said, dude, send it back. We've discovered what the issue is, and that is that when you've got a hop unit, let's assume this one here I believe is a double bell. With the hop all the way off, and in this case, it's turning it anti-clockwise, which is up, which is confusing. When you turn it downwards, which is clockwise, you are turning the hop on. As you turn the hop on, that arm goes down, 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 down. And it doesn't mean that that hop's nothing all the way up to that hop's 0.5s, which is, as it turns out, a common assumption. Now, rotary hop units came out well after I started teching, 10 years after I started teching, long time. And the rotary hop units we had in G3s and Styrorgs, they didn't clog when you turned it on full, because they didn't apply that much hop, because TM put that thought process into it, right? So with this, he's basically turned it all the way on, and he's blocked his hop unit. Now, it's the same if you get a torn hop rubber, or a damaged hop rubber, or a bad BB. It can happen at any time. If the BB gets stuck, what happens? Well, here's what happens. This is just a shitty casing I just pulled out of my arse, right? So, this has an air seal. Just about. Doesn't really, I don't think. It's not much of an air seal. Why don't airsoft manufacturers give their gun the most perfect air seal? Well, the answer is very simple. If the BB clogs in the hop unit, because they've turned their hop all the way on, if the BB clogs in the hop unit because it's a bad BB, for whatever reason, if it's got a bad air seal, all that's happening is, it's actually sealing a bit better now, right? If it's got a bad air seal, that can still move, which means the piston can still go forward all the way home, right? With the best kind of airsoft build, you want to have a piston and cylinder head, all this stuff, you want it all to be given the most perfect air seal for the most consistency. But that has a downside, all right? Here's the downside. You're firing your gun, all right? There it goes. It's firing, it's firing, it's firing. And then you get a BB that's jammed in the hop unit, okay? BB jams in the hop unit. The nozzle goes forward because on the tappet plate. Nozzle goes forward like that. And you create, dependent on your nozzle, an epic air seal. Now with this nozzle, can I get an epic air seal? Yeah, I can. Not too bad, actually. Okay, if that air seal is a good air seal, you're turning your gears, it grabs your piston, it's bringing it back, it's releasing it at the release point. Yeah? He says. Then, as the piston is going forward, the air blocks. Okay, I'm just going to take this off for a second. The air blocks, okay? It can't go forward anymore because the air won't allow it. You've got an air block. The piston cannot go forward at all, or perhaps just very, 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 very slowly. And then, when you are firing, your gears are hitting your teeth in the wrong place. It could be there. It could be there. In semi-auto, okay, you get one that goes flump, you pull a trigger again, flump, pull the trigger again, and it'll go flump, 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 and it will keep venting out air here, flump, 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 flump. Your piston can't go forward. Lots of flumps. Your piston can't go forward. It's not possible. And that's why your gears are hitting your piston. That is where most user error breakages come in. Because why would you not just pull the trigger to try and clear the blockage? No, at that point, you've got to take your mag out, you've got to clear your BBs, and if you've got maybe 2 or 3 BBs lined up, you can't get an unjamming rod down your barrel because all you're doing is pushing a line of BBs into your nozzle. They're not going to come out because the nozzle wants to go that way on the tappet plate, and you're trying to force them this way. They can't go anywhere. They're not going to fall out your gun. You've got to take your barrel out, which is why M14s suck for that. And again, if you're doing short bursts, you're likely to notice the jam. If you're hammering a fuckload of rounds, you're not going to notice that jam, and your piston is going to get fucked up. All your gears are going to get fucked up. Something's getting fucked up. And the faster the rate of fire, the more likely you are to not notice what accident has just occurred. Now, the dude with this PKM is on the back of his truck, and there's going to be, I think he said 4 of his mates using it. And I've said to him, right, A, never let your mates use your airsoft gun. But B, if you're going to, you teach them short bursts. Short bursts, all right? I am confident in this gun. This is going to be absolutely fine. I'm not confident in the person using it because I've never met these other 4 people. I've not met this customer, but he seems like a nice, normal guy. And he was aware he's going to have to deal with his own hop unit and his own box mag. So I've done everything that I need to do to make this the best it can be. The onus is now on him. Another reason I don't like working on support guns is because the barrel and hop unit assembly is normally a wank. And how many times you had it, as good as the bull gear hop unit is, as good as the bull gear adapter is, and as good as the bull gear mag is, no matter how good they are, how many times have you had this? It's gonna be the normal fucking Negs of Airsoft YouTube comment section now.
Oh, what's wrong with him?
Mine was perfectly fine. Yeah, I've had loads that were fucking bang. I just put it on and it worked. It all just worked. But I've had more than that where I've gone, the hop unit doesn't even line up. I've got to bore out the hop unit hole because BBs won't go in it. I've got to move where the hop unit, I've got to change the gearbox location. Nah. So, big part of support gun use, it's gonna have a lot more rounds through it. It's gonna need to be cleaned. So the owner needs to know how that hop unit comes out and how it works and all that guff. So, that'll be on him. And the box mag, making sure that works properly, because again, it's still the standard box mag, it's not going to last 5 minutes. That's on him. I know that this is going to work perfectly. The rest, all on him. But let's have a little look at how fucking gorgeous those gears are now. Look at that. And that is all down to my locating screw here. Very pleased with myself.